Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, brought to you by Massa's Restaurants, 5 locations in St. Louis. STLMassas.com is their website. I will talk about my title sponsor a lot here today on a show that I think you'll enjoy. I've thought about putting this together for a while, and with MLB Network announcing they're going to do a 1980s look back at the Cardinals, a special on the Cardinals coming up at the end of January, I wanted to do my own special since I didn't get to be a part of that one, but I'm sure it'll be great. Looking forward to watching it. But today I'm going to play a few clips from some of the guys from the 80s that I've talked to over the years on this podcast. And on this one, you'll hear Keith Hernandez, Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Jack Clark, and Terry Pendleton from some of the older podcasts. And as a note, if you just scroll down, you'll see that there's all kinds of older podcasts. This is year 5 of the podcast, over, 70 episodes. A lot of former Cardinal baseball players, Brian Jordan, David Eckstein, Adam Wainwright, Mike Shannon, Izzy, Woody, Tukes. All those podcasts are still available, and they're all pretty evergreen, not time-sensitive. You can listen to them at any time, just telling stories from their day. So if you ever get bored here during the winter waiting for baseball to get going again, you can go back and listen to some of those. But, of course, as you've heard, I'm kind of evolving here. Interviewed Alex Eckes from Everclear on the first podcast of 2020. We'll continue doing more outside-the-box guys, different walks of life. We did Alan Hunter, one of the first original MTV VJs early on, and then Brother Love from the WWE, Bruce Pritchard. He's got a podcast called Something to Wrestle With. So there's all kinds of old podcasts in there. I've done it, comedians, Tom Green, Jim Florentine, Stuttering John from the Howard Stern Show. So all kinds of old podcasts and new ones coming up here in 2020. But this is the best of the 80s. And we'll start with Keith Hernandez. He was part of the 80s Cardinals, and then he was part of the 80s Mets. So here we get him talking about that first World Championship of the 80s, and unfortunately only. But Keith, always fun to talk to. And here he talks about finally winning it in 1982. You get to 82, it's about 8 years of your career, and you guys win a World Series that year. What was it like? Because those teams weren't real good that you started with. They were pretty good in the 70s. I think people maybe don't know how guys were close, but you get to 80, you get Whitey, you bring in Bruce Sutter, you start kind of building this thing. What was it like to see the team kind of being rebuilt and you being a huge part of that?
Well, there were some down years in there. I got called up in 74, and we lost the division to the Pirates the last day of the season. I got called up in August. And then 75 was the team was good and faded. And then 76 was a very, very bad year. Red got fired. 77, Vern Rapp came in, and we had a very good year. We finished in third place when we kind of faded it in the end. But it was the beginning, I think, of the young players starting to turn the corner. I had my first good full season in the Cardinal uniform. 78 was a bad year. Vern Rapp got fired. I had a bad year. I did 260 that year, I think, or 255. And then 79, Boyer started at the helm, and that's when Templeton and I had the great year. And
you win an MVP, by the way.
Yeah, and a batting title. And Blue finished his career with a great season. And then 80 was another bad year, and then Whitey came in, and then things started to become more consistent. He made a lot of moves, and I survived those moves, and I was happy about that. Because he made a ton of moves in the winter meetings, if you remember. He got rid of a lot of people. And eventually we won the World Series in 82, which was great because they hadn't won since 67. And so it was a long drought, and it was just great. I played in Old Busch Stadium when there wasn't a lot of people there, when the teams weren't good, and then to see the Cardinal fans come out, because this is a baseball town. We know that. It's a Cardinal town. So this is probably one of the greatest baseball towns to play in.
And you have to leave in 83, you and Whitey. I've never really heard the real thing with that. I don't know if you have the background and when you read these rumors and everything, but what happened that day?
It was
a week, it felt like.
Well, it was a lot of things went on, and there's no need to rehash, but I was traded, and I had a contract coming up too. I had one more year on my contract, And that probably had some things to do with it. But there was a lot of circumstances going on. It wasn't a particularly good time in my life. But, life moves on. I would have loved to have been here. I do think that if I had remained here, I think that maybe 85 and 87 would have been, we would have been winners and when they went to the World Series. And I think that we probably would have had a big 80s dynasty that, maybe we would have got there in 86 and 88 as well, because it was a great Cardinal team. But, life moves on. I had to go over the Mets, and I made the most of it there. I was fortunate enough to get to a whole new team with a bunch of young guys that were so talented, and to be a part of that, it was a lot of fun too. But my loyalties and my great memories, because I grew up a Cardinal. I grew up as a kid as a Cardinal. I grew up in the farm system with the Cardinal way. It was always pride in the uniform. Those are things that you just don't wash away.
That is an interesting thought that I had never thought of if you did stay, because then not only are you here, but you're not on the Mets, which is the team that wins in 86,
right.
And you're the captain, so that means you're the guy that they're looking to, and that is a big deal.
You just, I look at me at first base, and you have Jack Clark in right field hitting fourth behind me. That would have been pretty formidable with Willie McGee, who had 350-something, and it would have been quite a formidable lineup. Now, whether Whitey would have traded for Jack Clark, who knows? But Jack Clark, when he came here, was such a powerful hitter, such a great cleanup hitter for his short stay here. That particularly in '85, he was just very, very dangerous.
You've written many books, and I just think that '86 team is so fun to hear about from afar. We were Cardinal fans, but I think there was a respect of that team. But, man, when you look back at it, you guys just had this 30-year reunion that was so cool to see you guys all back together again, seeing Ray Knight back out there. But what does it mean to you when you think back on that team? Because that is a classic, holy cow, one of the great teams of all time.
Well, it was a great year. We won 108 games. There's only 14 other teams that won 108 games in the history of baseball, and we were 54 wins at home and 54 wins on the road. We played well home and away. We just blew the league away. But to me, the fondest memories are that series we had here in September in '85, when we had to win the 3 games, when we came in and won the first 2 games. Darryl Strawberry's home run off the clock and the old scoreboard, and we won the second game, and then we lose the third game, and I went 5 for 5 in that game. That was such a great series, and it was filled up here, and there's no other regular season series that I played with so much on the line and so much energy and so much competitiveness between the two teams, and it was just a treat to play in. And we kind of went back and forth. You guys won in '85, we won in '86, you won in '87, we won in '88. So it was a great run for the Cardinals and a great run for us.
Yeah, it was so much fun. A couple more minutes with you. I appreciate your time. You did come into St. Louis, and you don't see many players booed the way they booed for you,
Mm-hmm.
and that means you did something here. They loved you, and you got booed. What was it? What did it mean? Was that flattering, or was it? How did it hit you?
Well, there was a lot more circumstances involved in that, but the time has healed lots of wounds. Jack Buck was terrific for me, and I think that he kind of rehabilitated me towards the fans of St. Louis. I'm forever grateful to Jack what he did for me on the radio, because I left and I wasn't here, but I had friends that live here and were listened to Jack, and they were telling me what Jack was doing, and I'm forever grateful to Jack. I always loved Jack. I got along with Jack wonderfully. I thought he was terrific. So it was just, we were the competing team. I mean, it was either us or the Cardinals. So it really added to the excitement and the intensity of the game. It was the same way when the Cardinals came to New York. They got booed. And it was just really good competing those 4 years with the Cardinals.
Keith Hernandez is always great. If I was running the local station here in St. Louis and I was running the broadcasts, I love the broadcast teams. I think they're all great. But I'd add Keith Hernandez in there somehow. I'd get him in for 10 games. I watch a lot of Mets games, and his analysis is like none other you would hear in St. Louis. It's so fun, but so honest. And I know he offends many players when he talks. So I thank Keith Hernandez. I love seeing him in town when he comes through, and that whole interview is available in the archives, along with some great stories about being on Seinfeld and his mustache. So check that one out. That was one of the earlier ones back in 2016. We move on as Keith Hernandez kind of ended that clip. He was talking about the rivalry with the Mets. I'm going to move on to Ozzie Smith. And Ozzie and I talked for a good 45 minutes, and we talked about everything, including his rivalry with Tony La Russa that continues today. They're still not really speaking, but maybe getting a little better as they get older. You can hear all of that in the Ozzie Smith episode, but here I'm concentrating on just the storyline that we're going with the rivalries. And the Cardinals and Mets didn't really get into any bench-clearing brawls, but there was a good rivalry there. But they also had this great rivalry with the Giants as we moved into the mid-'80s. There was 2 big brawls with the Giants, actually 3, but the 2 big ones people remember, 1986 and 1988. And Ozzie was part of that 88 one, taking a haymaker punch at Candy Maldonado. So he'll talk about some of those rivalries here. Always fun to talk to Ozzie. Here he is talking about the rivalries. I did, and I also think about these rivalries that you can't really get them anymore because of the wild card. Yeah. The 2 that you guys had that were big, obviously, was the Mets, and then obviously was the Giants. And I think what's funny about these 2 rivalries, from what I've learned from talking to your group, you guys seem like you really respected the Mets. I think you guys sort of had this sort of quiet, okay, they're good, we're good. I don't think you liked the Giants. I felt like there was more of a, and you didn't play them a lot, so there was brawls every other year with them. You had Will Clark.
I mean, there was a certain arrogance to them. I think that one of the first times we went out there and we played them in the playoffs, and I think it was 1980s. 87,
yeah, was the playoffs.
Well, with the wives and girlfriends and stuff, when they were walking to their seats, they were popping their balloons and all that stuff. And it was just it was a different, we had a rivalry with the Mets and stuff, but I think we respected each other. With San Francisco, I'm not sure that they really respected, what we were accomplishing, whether you liked it or not. We were who we were, and we were where we were. And so there were a couple times that I think that they felt that they were a much better club, and we ended up beating them, and they didn't take too kindly to that, which is okay, because it's all about competing. It's not about who has the best team on paper and so forth and so on. And a couple times, I think we beat them with a couple of our main guys down, and they didn't take too kindly to that. And I think that part of the brawl that we had was had to do one time with, I think Vince stole second or third base early in a game where we were up by 5 or 6 runs, and there's kind of an unsaid rule in baseball that with a 4 or 5 run lead, you don't steal second or you don't steal third base. But we weren't a home run hitting ball club, and it was early in the ball game too. So I think one of the things that Whitey talked about was that if you send a note over saying we're not going to try and score any more runs, then we'll stop trying to score runs the way that we do them. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first big deal, and I think that was with Mike Krukow, and he got his collarbone broken, I think, and trying to sneak attack Vince there. And then the other one, I think, was with Will Clark sliding in and intentionally trying to hurt somebody at second base. Now, we don't mind guys sliding in hard to break up the double play, but when you start sliding beyond the bag and you're intentionally trying to hurt somebody, and that changes things. And I think that's what that was all about. And he was doing it on a regular basis, and then you realize that, hey, I told the umpire, I said, second base is our only protection out here, and if you start allowing guys to slide beyond second base, we don't have any protection, and that's how that thing there got started.
But they've changed those rules, so I guess you won't, unless you're really doing it. You're going to see brawls still, but you don't see them as much because the rules have kind of fixed that.
Well, the rules have certainly. I think the rule was always there. I'm not sure it was always enforced.
It's true. That is true.
Yeah,
you're right.
I think it wasn't enforced. They became so lax with the rule, but I think it was one that was always there, that you should be able to touch the bag, but they had let it get away, and so they had to bring it back, and because the bag has always been a protection for the middle infielder, and you always use that bag as your protection, and I always try to make it a habit that I touch the bag. But then they had this play called the vicinity play. And I never really thought about a vicinity play. I always thought about wearing my shoe out here on the instep of my right toe and kicking the bag or stepping on the bag or hitting the bag at some point in time. Now, it may have happened so quick that people didn't see it, or they thought that sometimes because of the way I moved that I ended up so far away from it that I didn't touch the bag. But I made it a habit of always trying to touch the bag because I knew I would never want to lose a ball game that way from a fundamental standpoint of making sure that you touch the bag with the ball in your hand.
Love Ozzie Smith. I tell a fun story there, and thankfully to Joe Pfeiffer, one of the great people at the Cardinals, and Cadence and Selena, all the great people at the Cardinals. I've been to a few fantasy camps, and I made Ozzie Smith swing and miss at a pitch. Yep, slider in the dirt. As John Mabry would call the parachute pitch. It starts out of my hand, looks like it's going to come fast, and it just sort of slows down real fast. But Ozzie Smith always engaging. A part of that interview, I just say how many people does he have left to sign autographs for in St. Louis, because it seems like everyone has one on their mantle. So we continue with the best of the 80s here, my favorite 80s interviews, and a couple big moments in the 80s. If you think of 1985, you think the tarp. And Vince Coleman, I've talked to him a few times about this story, but this was the first time on the podcast I got the chance to talk to him about it. It's an amazing story, and I still just can't understand how the fastest guy in baseball got run over by a tarp, but here he will talk about that. So let's hear Vince Coleman take us back to that day against the Dodgers, NLCS Game 5 or Game 4. I can't remember. Either way, Vince Coleman gets run over by an automatic 3-mile-an-hour tarpaulin.
But we always have to talk about the tarp. I don't know why. I just have to, because the last time we talked about it, and you said something that I couldn't believe. You said, I thought I was going to die. And I don't know if you remember saying that, or if that's really how you felt. Maybe you're just helping me out with a great interview quote. But, we've all heard, and you said it just started rolling, and you didn't see it, and you guys were out there.
Well,
but tell me a little bit.
I've been asked that question a million times.
A million and one.
I don't answer the same way. But I'm going to give you the honest truth,
Okay.
Good one right now.
Thank you.
The funniest part about it is that after it all happened, I'm sitting in the training room, and all my teammates came in because they were so concerned, and they all was like, "You're okay." And Whitey told me to stand up, but I couldn't put any pressure on because I didn't feel at the time it was just pain. But I played with pain before. Whitey, you can't run because I cracked my tibia, but we didn't know at the time it was cracked. But all the guys came in, "How you doing? How you doing?" And you had to know Bobby Force, to appreciate. And he was like, "Hey Vince, you were scared, wasn't you?" I said, "Yes, I was scared." He said, "The reason I know you were scared because I've never seen a black guy turn white."
That's Bob Force, folks. That's exactly right.
But when I was up underneath that tarp, and when they say that when you in fear of your life, you don't feel a thing, it was a ton on top of me. Completely stopped, still. All I could visualize is this thing rolling over me, dying, and I didn't feel it. Mm-hmm. But when they stopped it to re-roll it back off of me, that's when I felt the pain. And just like you and I sitting here talking, Terry Pillman and I were standing on the first base line, inside of the line, and it was controlled by a man running the machine down in the right field in a trolley, and he came out rolling it, and it grabbed my foot. And everybody said, "Well, did you see it?" If I'd have seen it, I'd have ran away from it. Did you hear it? If I'd have heard it, I mean, come on.
Fastest man alive gets hit by a 2-mile-an-hour tarp.
No, I didn't see it. Of course, it knocks me down, and that was one of the most. And you got to hear Willie tell a story, because Willie was like, "Man, you were screaming like a woman." And say you was, and I thought I was gonna die. I mean, because that's all the thing. And I went home that night, and I couldn't sleep that night. And I'm living with Willie, and I said, "Willie, come check on me every night and then." But he didn't have to go check. I was letting him know because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't, because the only thing you can visualize is that thing re-rolled. Sometimes I still think about it from time to time, but only thing it cost me was that I couldn't play for during that period. We lose to the Kansas City Royals. They were so comfortable and relaxed because I wasn't in the lineup. We didn't have the same chemistry, my beat being up. But even still, we was up 3-1. Still should have won. The bad call by Dinkinger, kind of cost us and hurt us too. It was a big ordeal. But, I know some misunfortunate things that happened, and that just happened to be one of many.
Yeah, I hate ending on a downer, so I will say, if you go to YouTube, there's a wonderful clip of you after the team clinches in 1987. I don't know if you've seen this. Maybe some
best
champagne.
team in the world.
Best
Best
we
team
had
in
an
the world.
all-star at every position. Jack Clark.
Yeah, with Art Holiday.
Yes.
Yes. I've been brought up. Kids bring that to me. My kids today bring it to me. Daddy, you was drinking champagne. I said I was celebrating. I wasn't drinking. I was just shoving it at everybody. Yeah, but all of a sudden, it wasn't like you was drunk anymore. You asked you a question, you gave an intelligent answer.
Yeah, then you just go into Vince Coleman. We've got a good team and a great ball club, and we hope we can win.
Man, that was so much fun.
The Vince Coleman clip on YouTube, I actually was recording that clip live myself as a 10-year-old child, watching Channel 5, watching Art Holiday, and I used to run around the house saying that to myself. We got an all-star at every position. Jack Clark, Tommy Hurd, Tony Pena, Willie McGee. Vince Coleman, the funny guy, interesting fella. And that interview is fun because if you go back and listen to Vince Coleman, he had a lot of controversy when he left St. Louis. One, the way he left St. Louis. He'll talk about that. He threw some fireworks at some kids in a parking lot at Dodger Stadium. We actually talked about that. So go back to that Vince Coleman interview, and you can hear all that. Vince Coleman believes he would have been a Hall of Famer if he stayed with the Cardinals his whole time. So that's an interesting take. But who knows? We'll never know because he didn't. Moving on. To another huge moment, also in 1985, Jack Clark. This is my favorite baseball player back when I was a kid. I love the number 22. I wear it at fantasy camp as an homage to him. 22 is one of my favorite numbers, and it's because of Jack Clark. I grew up on this 1985 team. I started watching baseball religiously in 1985, and Jack hit 22 home runs that year. And it seemed like he hit one every day. Back then, every game wasn't on TV, but it just felt like Jack Clark was going to hit home runs. And it just, the way he hit them, they were just bombs, and he had this violent swing. If you go back and watch some clips of him, if you've never seen him, for our younger audience, Jack Clark home runs were a thing of beauty. I used to mimic his stance with the bat waggle, and that was about it. That's all I could really do. I couldn't hit the ball that far, obviously. But the Game 6 home run against the Dodgers to put the Cardinals into the World Series is just an amazing story. You'll hear me kind of talk about the setup of why I think it's amazing. Jack and I sat down at Massa's. We had the Beef Pepe. Massa's, our title sponsor, stlmasses.com. You'll hear in the background some rattling of plates and waiters, but we were at Massa's, and you can go there too. They are my title sponsor, and again, always looking for new title sponsors. So this is a good point to remind you that I have a Facebook page called Here's the Pitch with Brad. I have a website called here's-the-pitch.com. Here's-the-pitch.com. Put some dashes in there. You can follow me on Twitter at Brad Straubinger. All these interviews go to YouTube on the STWEEKLY page, YouTube ST Weekly. So you can find me anywhere, always looking for new sponsors. Hopefully some big news coming here in the next couple months as I continue to do some work myself. But Massa's is the title sponsor. They always have been, and I love Massa's. I was there Saturday night. And I had a Big Al's Pizza, and it was delicious. But Jack and I, back to why we're here, we're talking about the home run against the Dodgers. I set it up, and he just goes. So here's Jack Clark. So we were just talking about your home run at Dodger Stadium, and I always talk about this with anybody else, so the fact that we're going to talk about it is great.
The first thing is obviously that he pitches to you. We've talked about that a lot. The second thing is how you make this right turn. Dodger Stadium still has all this foul territory. You're literally in the Cardinal dugout before you hit first base. You've told me a little bit about that. But then the third thing about the home run, well, Pedro Guerrero dropping his glove, awesome, a perfect visual for all of this stuff.
Throwing his glove.
Throwing, and then, but you get to home plate at the top of the ninth of Game 6, not Game 7, and your whole team is at home plate. This isn't a walk-off home run. I think that's my favorite part of this whole thing is your team said, we've won. Tell me a little bit about you were saying that was the weirdest part to you, because I know that you said, I was telling Tommy Lasorda, hey, guess what, I just did it again to you guys.
Even though they're scoring, if I hit the ball as hard as I can to Guerrero or the center field, they're scoring. No doubt about it. At least tied. So I don't have to hit a home run. And I process that because you have to. You process it real quick. It's not needed. That's like down the road, third or fourth thing. If you get it, great. I'm always going to take my swings. I'm not going to get cheated. Get my 3 good swings in, So I'm all ready, but the base is open. And I'm thinking to myself, quickly, and I mean quickly, like in about 100th of a second, is it going to walk me? Is it going to pitch around me? Are they going to put their arm out and try to act like they're putting me on and then try to get a quick strike on me? Blah, 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 blah. Screw it. It's him against me. It's power against power. It's Dodgers. It's Dodger blue. It's time for them to bleed. And they always talk about we bleed Dodger blue, and they've always beat me and won. And now it's time for me to get something back. But I don't have to hit a home run. Had complete processed everything in the short period of time, got in there. They had struck me out the time before, again, climbing the ladder. But climbing the ladder means the first one is going to be the best one of that ladder. And then the next one's a little higher, and the next one's a little higher. But remember I said earlier in our first, we were talking, I was having a really good series. It didn't matter who threw it, who was throwing it, or how it was spinning it, whether it was screwballs, sinkers, Fernando, big backdoor curveballs, 3 and 2 screwball, it just didn't matter. I was going to get to, they already got me on that before. 3 fastballs up, chased them, struck me out a couple innings before. Same situation. I know when he went out there, he told them, we're Dodger moving. Just get him to chase one, then climb the ladder on. He just didn't climb it enough, and I got on top of it, and I missed it just a little bit to hit it perfect for a home run, to get the height on it and everything else, which then it was time to celebrate, because when I hit it, I knew it was gone. I knew it was fair. It wasn't down the line. I didn't see Guerrero throw his glove down. I saw that later. Because when you have a player on another team do that, you really stuck a dagger in them then. If I wish I would have known that, to be honest with you, because I would have felt better even about the bottom of the ninth then, because the game wasn't over. So as soon as I hit it, I looked into the dugout because I knew it was gone. Because I had kind of got a reputation around calling pitchers bitches and stuff, punks and everything else. I mean, and they knew they could hear it. I wanted them to hear it. That I didn't.
Fuhrer was your bitch that day.
Well, not really. What I said when I said that, my teammates kind of took that on. Like they'd see me before the game. What's up, bitch? It didn't matter whether it's Ken Daler or Cox. Hey, bitches, John Tudor. What's up, bitches? Something like that. And that just was kind of, so as soon as I hit it, I looked at them and I said, take that, bitches, And so I took my time. I remember going around the base and I said, you know what, man? All that Dodger blue, we bleed Dodger blue, trying to show me up again, pitching to me like I'm some Joe Bag of Donuts, no good, nothing, from the old Giant days that you ruled. But now I'm a Cardinal, and this is a different team, and this is a team with history and winning, and they won in '82. It's not like they came from New York, and it's been forever, and they haven't even got to the playoffs. They won the World Series, and we got an owner in Gussie Busch and fans and everything else. Anyhow, I took that turn. I think I ran out to right field almost. I felt like I did. I wanted to. and then I came back, touched second. When I hit touch second, I didn't quite go to third. I kind of touched second and kind of went out to shortstop a little bit because I'm getting closer to their dugout. And I wanted all of those Dodger players and Lasorda just to like go, did I make the right decision? I mean, I really wanted to rub it in, like I got you. And I really didn't hit home with me, like you said, till I got to third. I hit third, hit Hal Lanier's hand, and I kind of made a big turn there, still taking my time. It's definitely the slowest trot I ever had. Because I never really wanted to show up pitchers, but I really wanted to show up the Dodgers right then for a lot of reasons. And when I came around and then I saw all the players at home plate, I was like, this is only the top of the ninth. The game's not over. But hey, since you're here, and I actually reached over because we had a bunch of little guys, and I actually reached over everybody, and Danny Cox was kind of reaching over everybody with both hands, and I reached over and hit him first because all the other guys were little. Vince was out there on one leg jumping around and everything else. And dude, we're going to the World Series, and you're not. In your ballpark. You know, when you had the lead and you just took it. It was a good game because that game was going back and forth. And so it was a lot of with the history in the team. And I always remember I love Jack Buck's call, and I love the call also by Vince Scully. You know,
Clark a chance to redeem himself after striking out in the seventh. The Dodger right-hander is set, and here's his pitch to Jack Clark. Swinging a long one into left field. Adios, goodbye, and maybe that's a winner. A 3-run homer by Clark, and the Cardinals lead by the score of 7-5, and they may go to the World Series on that one, folks.
So Jack Clark was my favorite player on the team, and John Tudor was my favorite pitcher. Just John Tudor made it look so easy. He looked like he was throwing a wiffle ball. I'd go out there. I was right-handed, but I'd try to mimic his tossing left-handed, right-handed, and it looked like a wiffle ball. But it was just so fluid and easy. But that home run against the Dodgers, I'll never forget it. As a kid, you just have these moments that come up, and they are special, and they are always fun. It's just amazing to get to talk to these guys about them even 30 years later. And I'm glad I had a chance to hang out with Jack Clark. The last clip I'm going to play is Terry Pendleton. And Terry Pendleton will talk about the Jack Clark home run. And then he'll talk about this era ending. And he was one of the free agents in 1990, along with Willie McGee and Vince Coleman. And I think Ozzie was a free agent as well. Ozzie signed, but Coleman, Pendleton, and Willie McGee all are not part of the team in 1991. But Terry Pendleton starts this conversation by talking about that Jack Clark home run.
What I always remembered about that as a kid, at first I was at a record store watching it. It was on a TV at a record store, so that's how old it is. I don't know if there's record stores.
No, there might not be any of those left.
But the fact that Jack, when he hits it, literally takes the widest turn. I mean, Dodger Stadium still's pretty wide, and he comes over that. He's told me about this, where he comes over to look at you guys.
Oh yeah, he had told us that in the seventh inning, Tom Niedenfuhr struck him out in the seventh inning, and I'd never seen Jack so mad in my life. And he comes back to the dugout, and he tells us in so many different words that if that is still in the game, I'm taking this. We used to call it big fly, hitting a home run, big fly. He goes, if he's still in the game when I come back up there, I'm taking him big fly. And so he gets his opportunity there, and first of all, we're all shocked. It sort of goes out to him on. We're thinking, okay, he's going out there to make sure he puts him on, because Van Slyke and myself were coming up after that, and neither one of us have been doing nothing in the series, you know. And we were both shocked that he's actually going to pitch to him. And he hits that ball, and when he hits the ball, of course, you know, we all raised up, but he hits the ball, and he immediately beelines straight toward our dugout, and he yells, that's a big fly, in his favorite words after that, and he proceeded around the bases. But for us, I mean, it sends chills through you just thinking about it. You know, years after that, I got Pedro Guerrero because he played here in St. Louis with us, and I got the opportunity to give him a hard time every single day, watching him slam his glove on the ground like a little league kid, you know, mad at the world. But that was, we left there, flew to St. Louis, and we were listening to the Kansas City-Toronto game on they were actually bringing it to us on the plane from the pilot and co-pilot, and we were still on cloud nine. Even though we were in the air, we were on cloud nine still from that game.
The other thing about it was you guys all come to home plate in a game on the road. It's not a walk-off home run. I mean, imagine what would happen today if a team does that. The people would talk about it forever. The fact that you guys came to home plate to meet them on a road game that's not over.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, it was over.
Tommy knew, and Pedro.
Tommy knew, Pedro knew, and every Dodger fan who watched the Cardinals play. We had this guy named Worrell and Daly in the bullpen. It was over. Trust me, it was.
You guys in the 80s had Gussie Busch as your owner, and so I know that you guys had barbecues and you guys got together, and there's video, the Ozzie movie of you and Vince and Willie sitting at the house watching highlights. I don't know if that was staged, but I assume that went on a lot more. No. What is the difference? Why do you think it's so different? The barbecue is a big thing to me. I mean, that because you guys got together. What has changed in the 30 years, and when did it? Was there a line where you see that changed?
First of all, I'm not talking bad about anybody, any player whatsoever, but I think selfishness has played a big part in this game, period. Off the field stuff, I think this phone and the internet and everything else, takes precedence over getting together, doing things with you. I mean, you can walk in the clubhouse now, and in any clubhouse, and 90% of the guys are on their phone or on the iPad doing something else. They're not sitting around talking about the game or what might happen or what should have happened or what could have happened or what you should have done and why didn't you do it and all that type of stuff. They're into other things now. For us, we got together because we enjoyed being around each other. We wanted to sit around and laugh and joke. We brought our wives around so they could sit around and have camaraderie with us and the other wives. And we all had a great time together. August Busch made being a St. Louis Cardinal special. He was the type of owner, he'd come around, he'd let you know that he appreciated you. He came around to make sure everything was the way it should be and the way we needed it to be. He didn't take any flack from players. We had players leave here because they made gestures towards fans. They weren't here 2 days later. They're gone. He didn't play that. He respected you as a person and as a player, and you did the same with him, and you respected the way he ran a ball club. But they were just special. The Anheuser-Busch family was just special. And they made sure their ball club was the same way. And I'll tell you, here in St. Louis, when I was a St. Louis Cardinal, we were treated special. I mean, I tell these kids stories now about playing here in St. Louis. There's no better place to play.
You got a little more time to talk about some of the later times, if that's all right. The fact that team doesn't have a ring, the 85 or 87 team. The 87 team, now I'm a fan. 85, I learn about the team. Right. 87, I'm watching. We're paying. They had pay-per-view games at home. Right. And the home run in New York is obviously, you can't talk to Terry Pendleton without talking about that. But the 87 team, and the fact that those two teams don't have rings. I mean, to me, they're as big as those World Championship flags. They're as close as you can get because both obviously Game 7s, but the teams, the era is remembered as the people loving it. Just tell me a little bit about the fact that you didn't win the big ring in those 2 years.
Well, I think, some people may differ or may say something different, but I think the reason, personally, I think we didn't win the ring in 87. Myself and Jack Clark weren't able to. I was limited, and Jack wasn't able to play at all. I think that's two big differences in your lineup, period. We stayed in ball games. I think Minnesota had a little special home cooking there when they were at home. They did it again in 91 in a different uniform. But it's home field advantage. I guess you take advantage of what you can while you can when you're at home. But I think what made those teams so special was when we had injuries, and we had them all year long. It seemed like somebody came in and was able to come in and fulfill that spot. Jose Oquendo was huge to us in 1987, with him being able to play every position on the field. We had, I want to say, Dan Dreesen come in and play first base when Jack Clark went down. Huge. We had that in 85. We had Ivan De Jesus step in. We had Cesar Cedeno step in. Tito Leonard. I mean, we had guys that came, walked right in and stepped in and did the job. In 87, we had the same thing. I think what made that so special, the Mets were chasing us again, or we were chasing them, and it went back and forth all year long. And I think the beauty of all that was the fact that right here in St. Louis, they had to sit and watch us win the thing while they had a day off up in the booth. They got a chance to sit there and watch us win the whole deal. But
fans were chanting at them.
Oh, yes.
Go home, Mets.
Yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. So that was the beauty of it. But I think just us, the Mets had better pitching. The Mets had better offense. So they say. And on paper, they probably did. Defensively, there was nobody better than us. Pitching-wise, because we were so good defensively, our pitching could do it virtually what they wanted to do. Or if they went out and pitched the way they were supposed to pitch, we were going to defend it and have an absolute better chance of winning. I think offensively, that old saying, speed doesn't go into a slump. Even if we weren't hitting, there was always a chance we were going to score a run or two. So we had the opportunity to put pressure on the other ball clubs and force them into more errors. And I think that's what made it so fun for everybody watching. Even if you weren't a Cardinal fan, there were people viewing in our Cardinal games because of the speed we had and because of the way we played the game of baseball.
A couple more minutes with you. I appreciate your time. I think it's crazy that your pitching coach is here, Roger McDowell, and you guys sit and have to talk every day. I know you've said before there's no chance I bring it up if other people want to bring it up. What is it like? Is it still brought up? I mean, it is such a huge moment here. I don't know if anybody really brings it up between you two, though.
No, I think in 2007, we were in New York, and one of the New York writers, they were doing a big story on that 87 series, and they asked Roger, they wanted to sit down with both of us and discuss that whole deal, and Roger wasn't interested in doing it all, and I told him from the get-go, I said, if he'll do it, fine. If not, I don't have an issue with it at all. So they end up speaking to us individually. I don't bring it up because I know for me, if I'd thrown that pitch, it'd be a sore subject for me the rest of my career. So it's not something I bring up to Roger.
Hey, I hit a home run off. You remember that day, Raj?
No, yeah. I don't do that. Even in joking, I don't do that. No. I respect him. I know the way he played the game, and I know how he went after it every day the same way I did. It was blood. The Mets and the Cardinals, it was blood, So we respect that fact, and we realize that was in the past, and we both try to keep it there. But I will say this, every time I go to New York, I hear about it. Oh, I kid you not. Every time. I can be walking down the street. It's not even at the ballpark. I can be walking down the street, and somebody will recognize me and go, oh, man, you killed my Mets in 87. And they go into the whole spiel. And I have people there in New York telling me, oh, this was the first 9/11. I forgot the date in which I hit it. Yeah. And they tell me that's the first night. I said, I don't want to be remembered by that 9/11 thing. I don't want no part of that. But they talk about how much it crushed their season. I remember going in there, and we were a game and a half up when we went in there, and they were already talking about, well, we win this one tonight, and we got Gooden tomorrow. We're definitely going to take over the lead after Saturday. And we're going in there going, okay, yeah, we got to handle this one first and worry about Gooden tomorrow. And we went in there and ended up winning that game Friday night. And we put 5 on Gooden the first inning the next day, and he was gone. We won that one, but we lost the third day. But we still left out of there 2.5 up, and that was a huge, huge lead in those days.
I've watched 30 years of baseball as a Cardinal fan. We've had 2011, but that time in 87 is one of the greatest times. I can't let you go without asking about your Braves days. You leave here, and we all thought, oh, man, Terry Pendleton is going to leave. And then you go and you win an MVP. We're like, what does he do? This is not right. And you go to the Braves, who were in last place. When you get over there, they go to first place, the MVP. A great time in Atlanta. Of course, you didn't win. I couldn't believe when I looked it up. I thought, how did he not win a ring? You left before they win in '95. But everything that happened for you there in '91 and how you took what you learned from Ozzie and Willie and all that stuff here, and you take it over to Atlanta, and you turn the franchise around and make them have the same conversations in Atlanta that we have here in St. Louis.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will say this. That year, actually, I'm trying to not tear up, to be honest with you. That year, when I left here, was the longest walk out of a tunnel I ever took in my life. It was that tough for me.
So it was one of the early interviews, but I was hoping to get Terry Pendleton to cry. He did not, but it was always fun seeing him around with the Braves, and what a player he is. And there's some talk about him being a Cardinal Hall of Famer. I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts on who the next crop should be, because at some point, does everyone get in, is the question. So there's a lot of Cardinal history, but Terry Pendleton was here a long time, had some big hits, had some great years. And the 1987 home run against the Mets is one of those amazing moments, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget where I was sitting. I was sitting on the floor in the basement, and thought the Cardinals had lost, and thought the Mets were going to take that series. And it's just amazing what one swing can do, because the Mets would have gone into first place. They had Dwight Gooden pitching the next day. The Mets are on a roll. They go and play in the 1987 NLCS. Well, no, Terry Pendleton hits a home run. The Cardinals had one hit through 5 innings in that game, and Tommy Herr had a big hit against Jesse Orozco. Willie McGee actually had a huge hit in the ninth right before. So all the big names from those 80s Cardinals, they were such a fun team. And that's why I decided to go back and let you listen to some of these stories. I enjoy listening to them. I wanted to condense them a little bit and have them in one place. So that's why today I did Here's the Pitch with the best of the 80s. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're enjoying the show evolving a little bit. I wouldn't mind some comments on the iTunes page. Do you like hearing other artists, comedians, and songwriters, broadcasters, other players? Tell me what you want to hear on iTunes, but go ahead and give me a 5-star rating, most importantly. Also, always looking for sponsors, as I mentioned during the Jack Clark interview. So go ahead and look me up at here'sthepitch.com, here's-the-pitch.com. That's where you can find the website. I blog about each podcast, and I might get a little more active over there too. And then you can see the Masses clip, the Masses logo right there in the middle of the page. That's where your sponsor's logo will be too. And lots of people listen to this. I appreciate all the listeners, and I appreciate you listening to today's Best of the 80s. Here's the Pitch. That's going to do it for today. We'll talk to you soon, and thanks for listening.